Hello, everybody. Well, I would have said good evening, but it isn't evening. It is actually midday. And we are going to start cutting hay. Oh, that even rhymed. Well, we are back. We are back, and we're going to continue pretty much where we left off in the last video. In the last video, I told you that we are going to cut the hay in this video and that I want to do some time lapses and stuff. So I hope we get to that today. First of all, or just before we hop into the story and everything, I wanted to say thank you because I got a lot of positive feedback and yeah, thanks very much for all those nice comments. I'm actually really glad that you still like the English series. I mean, it was 6 months since the last one, and I couldn't be sure. I couldn't be sure if you're really still up for it. But you are obviously still into it, and I got a few nice comments, and I also got private messages from people who told me that, well, basically they like that they can watch me again. People who obviously don't understand German. So yeah, that is pretty nice. Also, I got a couple of nice comments from my regular German viewers who will also be watching this series. So yeah, that said, we can move forward. We can continue the series, and I hope it will stay that way. I hope we can continue the series for quite some time. Yeah, something is wrong. Yeah, for some reason the gearbox stuff seems to have one moment. And sorry, it is all in German at the moment. I think I'm going to set my game to English in the future because I think having a game in English is actually less distracting for my German viewers than the other way around. But you could tell me in the comments if it is an issue for you, if my game is in German, or if you don't really mind. Because if I set my game to English, I will get a lot of comments, mainly in the live streams I do. In my German live streams, the people ask me, why is your game in English? Why is your game in English? I had it set to English the last time I did an English series. I also had it set to English in FS19 for a while because I used it to create screenshots for mod-hub downloads and stuff, and it just was easier that way. I think in FS22 you can change the language in the main menu, so it isn't as big of a hassle as it was in FS19, but still I probably forget, so I think I can't switch between languages in the game, so I need to basically select one. So whichever is less distracting. Well, let's just see what you tell me in the comment. If you all say, well, it doesn't really matter if the game is in English or in German, and if it doesn't confuse you, then I probably keep it in German, but otherwise I might do it in English because, well, most Germans do understand enough English that it wouldn't really be a problem, I think. So yeah, we do have a little bit of moving vehicles around or moving implements around to do. And we need to attach the trailer first because this one is basically in the middle, and this needs to be pulled out first, and then we need to get the plow, and then we can actually attach the mower. But yeah, I also realized that somehow I seem to have forgotten to add manual attach. I don't know why I keep forgetting that on my pull-out save game. I also have been playing without manual attach for quite some time. I actually removed it on purpose, or didn't add it on purpose in the beginning, because I wasn't sure if it was actually good for the video. I mean, in terms of realism, obviously manual attach is a great mod, and I always want to play with manual attach. In the beginning of FS22, before manual attach got released, I really missed it. But the thing is that it is a bit distracting, obviously. So well, where do I put this trailer now? Maybe we'll park it right here next to my dump truck. It is, of course, a bit distracting when recording a video if you well, jump off the vehicle a lot, because that's a lot of fast camera movements, and those can be quite annoying or quite unpleasant to watch. I think that is a better way of putting it. It can be quite unpleasant to watch, I think. So I did remove manual attach on purpose on my other save game as a test, and I asked my viewers what they think, if they think I should leave manual attach out and favor the less annoying video style compared to realism, but most of my viewers said just put manual attach back in. So basically what I'm talking about is, well, now I'm hopping up, now I would hit Q, now you see that is a lot of camera movement all the time, so yeah, I guess you can see what I'm what I was thinking about when I thought about maybe not playing with manual attach. But again, I pretty much had no single comment that told me to not to use manual attach. I had a few comments that said, yeah, you are right, it is a bit distracting or a bit unpleasant, but it's still better than without. So yeah, I think that is settled, unless you guys, you my English viewers, have a different view on that. Of course you can put... Guess what? I managed to fill up my hard drive again. Yeah, it's kind of well, it's not a joke, but kind of a running gag by now. Yeah, also we shouldn't look too closely on those attacher points. Oh boy. Yeah, unfortunately this is something that would be really nice. Have different tiers of attachers in Farm Sim and have the lower links be movable from side to side like they are in real life, so you can well, I don't know the perfect word for that now, but you can allow for different implement attach point width. So I guess that would be a really nice thing if Giants ever wanted to add that. I would welcome that. But yeah, until that happens, we need to kind of close our eyes sometimes, because, well, there is a default size for the attacher points, but I think that even Giants doesn't use all the same anymore. Back in the older FS versions, everything was the same, big vehicles, small vehicles. But I'm pretty sure that in FS22 it is not the same, because even the base game vehicles, if you look at the small stuff, that stuff, and I think even that maybe, but a few of the small implements, especially the vineyard implements, have a different width. So yeah, that also means that the vineyard tractors have a smaller width between the attacher points, between the lower links. And yeah, so a few implements, even with Giants, don't fit to every other vehicle. And of course with mods it is a lot worse, because some modders do adhere to what seems to be the default for Giants, and some just do whatever they want. So yeah, anyways, back to topic. Let's attach this mower and let's mow our pastures. I mean, at this point in time, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to mow all three now. I mean, and yeah, you can see this is also, the width is also not correct, so maybe the width of this tractor isn't correct. That could obviously as well be a thing. Yeah, we're going to look into that at some point in the future, but not now. For right now, we're just closing our eyes and pretend it isn't. So yeah, I think I should be able to mow all three pastures by the time the day is over. So let's just go ahead, and I'm so nervous if this tractor even pulls this mower. I had it running, but I never tried it. I mean, we don't have a lot of grass on this pasture. The other one with the fences, the grass is a bit higher and a bit more, so maybe if it mows here, I might not mow there. But it started up. Let's just put it in, well, all the RPMs and lower it. Put it in first gear maybe, and just keep driving. Unfortunately, we don't have a slower gear other than first, so basically 8 kilometers per hour is our minimum we need to drive. So let's just go ahead and do this. I don't really know how to properly mow this pasture. I mean, I've looked at videos online, and basically they just go around and round and round. So I guess that is what we'll do. I also watched some videos where people were going, making smaller, small areas. So I don't know, just keep mowing. I guess it seems to work fine. No issues up until now. The tractor has enough power to pull this mower, and with the short grass, it isn't an issue. But I do get the feeling that it actually might take a lot of time to mow all these pastures like this. Just looking at or the feeling I get when driving around here, how long it will take. I guess it will take quite some time. So I might have underestimated this a little bit, but of course this is the first time ever that I'm using this mower, the first time ever that I actually use my tractor to do actual tractor work. So I guess that is kind of okay that I underestimate things. I shouldn't feel too bad about it, I guess. It's all a learning procedure. So yeah, I mean, in the beginning I was kind of a bit bummed that those fields are not mine, or well, they are mine, but somebody else is using them, and I was thinking, well, I only have so little land, but sitting on this small tractor with this small mower and trying to mow this big pasture right here, I'm kind of rethinking that. Actually, I might have too much, I don't know. Also, it's very, very noisy. The mower is noisy, the tractor is noisy at this RPM. And yeah, it's all a bit dusty and dirty, and a lot of grass clippings flying everywhere. Here, underneath the mower, underneath the folding section, there isn't a tarp, so it's just blowing all the stuff out, and obviously I don't have a cap or anything, so it's all just covering me. Not as pleasant as I thought it would be, really, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm really kind of nervous still, but I guess I need to kind of put away that nervousness and think about the implications of what we're doing right now. We are mowing our own pasture, and we're doing it with our own tractor, the tractor that I have restored a long time ago, and so far I'm mainly used to just well, drive around a bit and never really put it to work. So it's the first time the tractor actually does tractor work, and yeah, I mean, this is kind of surreal to think about. It's finally happening. We are finally doing it, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it, and yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter that I'm getting covered in grass clippings and that it's very noisy and that I didn't bring any earplugs or anything. None of that matters, because I'm sitting here on my nice old tractor and I'm driving with an implement. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just the best? I mean, having an old tractor is a pretty cool thing, obviously. You would all agree with me that having an old tractor is a really pretty great hobby, and everybody should own an old tractor and play with it. But honestly, it's something completely different if you can actually use it and put it to the intended purpose it was built for. It's just it's a completely different feeling, and it's incredible. You know what also is incredible? The fact that we have so many deer here and all the nature, and it's just yeah, it's different. It's really different from what I'm used to, and I like it. I do. I enjoy it. I really, not too much to complain about right now, other than the noise and the grass clippings, but I guess that is just part of it. I mean, back in the day, when this tractor was new, the farmers were still going in the fields with the scythe and mowing by hand, or having a horse and a horse-drawn sickle bar and stuff like that. So I guess any improvement was welcomed, and improvement where basically sit down and just turn a steering wheel and the tractor does all the work, probably was the most important thing. And people wouldn't really complain about noise and about grass clippings and about it's uncomfortable. That only started later. The manufacturer thought about, well, maybe we could have put a little bit more effort into making our tractors comfortable, and maybe we could have put a little bit more effort into all the ergonomics of a tractor. Of, well, where's the stuff? I mean, if you look here, this is a beautiful tractor. Obviously, we have a very nice gas tank, and it is quite literally a gas tank because this tractor runs on gasoline. Very beautifully formed gas tank in front of us, but we do have two very important gauges, and they are down there. I mean, they just put the gauges down there, and well, that's not the most ergonomically correct place, because you need to look down in order to see if your tractor is doing well. And I mean, stuff like that, people didn't really think about that too much back in the day when they first implemented stuff like that. And so I need to lift, I need to turn, and I need to very hardly brake, not very hardly, I need to brake very hard. Hardly braking and hard braking is two very different things. And hard braking is also something very completely different. Well, the English language is incredibly unprecise sometimes when it comes to distinguishing between things that are basically, well, sound very similar or the same, but are completely different spellings and obviously completely different meanings. Yeah, the English language is fun sometimes. Well, I guess it's fun most times, otherwise I wouldn't want to do this here, but well, where was I? Right. Ergonomics of a tractor, and I mean, where are all those levers down there, gear lever and stuff like that? I mean, pretty much they are wherever they came out of the tractor, wherever they wanted to put them, wherever it made somewhat of a sense to put them mechanically. The gear lever is wherever it was practical to put it on top of the gearbox, well, where the most direct way was to shift gears, and the throttle lever was put wherever it was practical to put a linkage and stuff like that. So you can see that on really old tractors, that a lot of the things don't really make that much sense if you think about it. It's kind of not where you would typically reach for stuff, and it is not ordered in a way that makes any sense. That only started way later, and I mean, I don't know the exact years of when this tractor or how long this tractor was built. I guess this tractor was already in a time where they started thinking about stuff like that, and where they actually started about thinking about well, how is it ergonomically pleasing to sit on the tractor? Is it do you have a good place to put your legs and stuff like that? I think it's already been in the minds of people, because tractors at this point have been around for quite a few years and have gotten more commonplace. So I guess that is it already a thing. So I don't really know if this is the best way of mowing this field, but I'm just going to continue because it's working. Yeah, so I guess we are at a point in tractor development where it started to become more of a focus in developing a new tractor to make it better for the operator. And but we are still here in the very early stages. I mean, we don't even have full fenders on this tractor. I can't really. Why did my mower stop working? It stopped working. What was that noise? Is there something wrong? It stopped turning. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I mean, it looks fine. I mean, it is a bit used. Obviously, it is a bit used, but it looks fine. I only got it around 4 times. It looks kind of big like that. Poor little tractor. Poor little tractor. But I mean, the engine and everything, I had it apart and it is all completely new, so it should be fine. It should be fine. That's weird. You know what? The lever popped out. It is not in PTO, is not engaged anymore. Let's just re-engage it. Well, seems to work. It was weird. Just jumped out. I guess. Not reverse. Yes, it just jumped out and disengaged with PTO. Maybe while I was turning, I was hitting it with my foot or something. I don't think so. Well, let's just continue and see if that happens again. Maybe there's some detent broken or something, although it doesn't stay in. Let's see about that. But as I was saying, we don't even have proper fenders here. If I drive through a mud puddle and the tires are completely full of mud, dirt flings everywhere. We don't have fenders in front. We barely have fenders in the back. Dirt is just flying everywhere then, and sometimes some of it lands on me. So that's just kind of a thing on those old tractors. That wasn't really an issue back then. People weren't afraid of dirt, or maybe they were. I don't know. I don't know people back then, but apparently tractor engineers didn't really consider that to be an issue. Anyways, before I start talking about whatever else I can think of and end up talking throughout the entire video without doing any time-lapse stuff, let's just start a little time-lapse, rest of the field. Let's just hope it goes as smoothly as everything so far. We did it! We actually mowed a field, or pasture, I guess is the more correct term, and nothing else broke. I mean, it didn't jump out of PTO engagement. It ran just fine. The engine got a little hot. I mean, I managed to reach temperatures I did not reach previously, but other than that, it's pretty fine. So let's do it again. I mean, we do have the next pasture. I guess we are going to try the fenced-in one next, because this one is a little bit longer grass, a little bit more heavy grass. So maybe it's going to be hard on the tractor, maybe not. Who knows? I mean, it didn't get hot. It just got really on the far end of the operating temperature. And obviously just driving it around for fun, it really never got much past the beginning of operating temperature, so I guess it is good for the tractor that it is getting a run through its paces, so to speak. Although I don't know, I mean, I know for a diesel engine it is good, gasoline engines. I don't know much about gasoline engines. I mean, I do a lot of engine repair stuff, but it is basically all diesel engines. I mean, as I've told you, it is basically heavy equipment, forestry equipment, stuff like that, and this is all 100% diesel engine. There are no petrol engines, so the occasional like mini engine, like a Briggs and Stratton, like basically a lawnmower engine, for sometimes on forestry equipment and also sometimes on other heavy equipment. There is like generator type engines, generators, stuff like that. So I came into contact with those and tried or had to repair some of those from time to time, but not really like a proper petrol engine. Of course, I did repair and overhaul this engine, so I do know how they work and how you take one apart and put one back together. It isn't that much different from a diesel engine, but I wouldn't I wouldn't take any chances of saying I'm certain of X, Y, Z regarding a gasoline engine, because, well, I'm simply not. So I wouldn't say for sure if this engine really needs to run hot for every once in a while, but I think the older gasoline engines, carbureted, maybe a crude tractor engine, the carburetor isn't as sophisticated. It might run a little rich, and if it runs a little rich, it also creates soot, and obviously not as bad and as much as diesel soot, but still probably couldn't hurt to like get the engine to operating temperature once in a while and burn all that soot and all that deposit stuff off, and basically it is cleaning the engine and the exhaust and everything. Obviously on a diesel engine it is really important to do that from time to time, because if you have a diesel engine that is always kind of idling and not really pulling any load and not really getting into operating temperature, even if it is getting into operating temperature but not pulling any load, there's still a difference, because well, the temperature in the combustion chamber and also, well, past the valves in the exhaust manifold and also the exhaust itself is largely or mainly dependent on the load of the engine. If there's more load on the engine, there's more fuel injected, and if there's more fuel injected, the engine is burning hotter, and if the engine is burning hotter, well, all those gases in there are obviously hotter. So even if the engine is reaching operating temperature and the thermostat is regulating that operating temperature, that does not mean that the engine is burning as hot as it can, because, well, if it isn't put under load or if it is idling, it just isn't. It might be on operating temperature, the engine might be warmed up, and the water is on operating temperature, and the oil is in operating temperature, and everything is fine in that regard. But it still means that if the engine is put on a real load and on higher RPMs, that it is going to be hotter in the cylinders and in the exhaust manifold and in the exhaust. So yeah, it is really important for a diesel engine to actually do that from time to time, because it will just end up depositing a lot of soot in all those parts and actually restricting flow if it really comes to that. Obviously that is kind of a worst case scenario, but actually diesel engines that don't really see any load anytime, diesel engines that just end up idling a lot or never even reaching operating temperature because they're just turned on, driven for a bit, or, well, moved around a bit, a vehicle that is just moving around a bit without any load or stuff like that. It can actually happen that the entire like flow area where the exhaust is usually flowing is getting quite restricted. Now, surprisingly, even if the engine is restricted a lot, it will still run, and you probably won't even notice unless it is like a big lorry or tractor, and you might notice a little bit of a down on power issue. But if you never really put the engine under any load and you don't use the capabilities of the engine and use the actual horsepower it has, you probably won't notice at all. Diesel engines are actually quite amazing things if engineered halfway decently. They will be running with very low compression and with bad timing, and lots of things can go wrong and can really, like a diesel engine can actually wear out a lot and still keep running. It might have a little bit of a hard time starting if the compression is low. I mean, it might be getting at a point where you have to add better glow plugs, or have to add an additional like intake flame heater or something like that to get it to start, or just do the very not very nice thing and just get some ether or some starting spray, some starting fluid, and wake the engine up this way. I mean, there are a lot of, and you wouldn't believe how many diesel engines are out there that only start with starting fluid because, well, they are old and they are worn out, and the owners of the equipment, they just want to use the equipment. They don't want to pay for an engine rebuild because, well, it is expensive to rebuild an engine, and if it's an older piece of equipment and if it's still running fine, people are just buying a can of starting fluid every so often, and each start is just getting a big whiff of starting fluid, and well, then it runs, and that's fine. And a lot of equipment is used that way, and obviously to a mechanic that is really not it kind of hurts, but yeah, you can't really do anything about it. I mean, that's just the way people treat machines sometimes. Not everybody is taking care of their machines, and not everybody is making sure that if something's broken, it's getting fixed. I mean, after all, a machine is just that. It's just a machine that kind of needs to work and needs to help doing a job, and as long as it does that, there are people that just don't care, and to a certain point I can understand that, because if the machine is old anyways and not the best and worn out, you do reach a point where you could obviously invest a lot of money into the machine and keep it running, and you might very likely invest less money compared to buying a new machine, because even if you get a really old, like, clapped out thing, it's paid for, right? It is paid for. It doesn't owe you any money. Probably bought it a long time ago, or you bought it used cheap already. It's paid for. So you're basically in it for, let's say, zero whatever monies you have, euros, dollars, whatever, and then you can go ahead and repair it. Take all the worn parts and all the stuff that is what's the word for stuff that is meant to wear out, like clutches and stuff. I can't, I mean, obviously I know the word, it just doesn't come to my head right now, but you know what I mean. Replace all that and all the bushings, and make sure that the transmissions or engines and stuff like that get a bit of an overhaul. I mean, more often than not on old machines, actually, it isn't that bad, right? You might have to overhaul an engine, but the transmission might be fine if it is properly built, and it might actually survive another engine's life, or it might not be perfect, but still good enough. So obviously there are layers to that. You can do what I did on this tractor here, and basically down to the last bolt, or you could just well, repair and replace all the things that need repairing and replacing, and just draw a line somewhere in the sand and say, well, everything past that is good enough, and you're probably going to spend a lot less money than if you would buy a new machine. But obviously you still want a new machine, because, well, a new machine is new, it has warranty, and it has new features, and is more comfortable probably, and all of those things. So you do pay a lot more to get a new machine than it would cost to completely overhaul a used machine, but you will still buy a new machine. Now, the funny thing is, as this is kind of an international series, I don't know where you're watching from. You might be watching from a country where this isn't the case. I mean, there are countries, and it sounds wrong to me if I say a poor country, because what defines a poor country? I mean, we were obviously talking monetary. Oops, that is a bit of an issue. I shouldn't do that. Obviously talking monetary, and monetary value is kind of unimportant in the grand scheme of things, but people always think it's the most important thing ever. But well, obviously, monetarily poor country means that the average inhabitants don't have that much money compared to, well, countries that do a lot better. And obviously, Germany would be considered a fairly rich country. I personally think that it's overrated. It isn't anymore. But back to the point, there are countries where repairing and overhauling a machine is the preferred way, because, well, new machines are expensive and repairing and overhauling might be a lot cheaper than, for example, in Germany. If I take an old tractor in Germany, bring it to a tractor repair thingy. What's the word? What's the word? A shop. Bring it to a shop and tell them, well, make it like new, or well, repair and redo everything that is needed for this tractor to operate for another 10 to 15 years. Obviously, I do have a very big list of things I need to buy, parts, and those are going to be expensive. But then I have another list, and that is working hours. Those are going to be very expensive. Usually, if you need to fix something on an old tractor, maybe if you fix something on a new tractor as well, but on new tractors things are more complicated. Tractors themselves are more complicated and more expensive, and parts are also more expensive. If you need to get a complete transmission for a new tractor, yeah, it's going to be a lot more than a complete transmission was for an old tractor back in the day. And obviously now you can't get a new transmission for a used tractor. But anyways, that's besides the point. The hours spent in money, the working hours, are usually just as much, and not sometimes even more, than the material cost, especially when like overhauling stuff like the bearings and stuff like that. Obviously, taking a transmission apart to replace the bearings themselves are cheap, but taking the transmission apart is expensive. And then you have countries where people don't get paid that much, and where the average salary is just way lower, where the average hourly rate is just way lower. And those are countries where stuff is getting overhauled much more compared to buying new, because well, the parts are still expensive, but the hours that it takes to fix them is not. So it's a completely different calculation, and the new thing is still, well, the money is the same for a new thing. New thing is expensive, the parts are expensive. Both are basically the same as in a country where the salaries are high, but the actual repair is cheap. And sometimes if the actual repair is cheap, maybe even parts are cheaper, because where over here you would not get like a starter motor refurbished or stuff like that. You would basically send in a core and get a new one and go on. But obviously that core then is sent back to our, I don't know, India or something, and they refurbish it and then they sell it as a refurbished starter motor. So it gets used and recycled. But if you are in a country where the salary is lower, you might actually have people in the shop who rebuild the starter motor, and that might be cheaper than buying a new starter motor and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe some of you are watching from countries where this is more the norm. And again, as I said in the beginning, I don't think that monetary value is the most important value to measure anything about. And I think in terms of like sustainability and environmental sustainability, it is actually very beneficial to have that mindset, to go about repairing things and basically redoing an old equipment and making sure it is going to be running for another 10 or 15 years, and then maybe do it again. And I mean, YouTube is a very great resource. There are channels from all over the world, and it is amazing what people fix in some countries, like really like crashed and bent up vehicles that in other countries would be basically just cut up for scrap. And they basically they take it apart, they unbend it, they weld in new beams and new things and new frames, and they put it back together, and they make a full machine out of it. And obviously that is more sustainable than to scrap the machine and build a new one. And yeah, I don't even know how we got to this topic, but I think it is I do have a little bit of a different view compared to many other people, at least many other people around me, because, well, I do actually have that sustainable thinking. It is ingrained in my head, so to say. I kind of grew up with that because, well, it's just the way it was. I wouldn't say I grew up poor, but I did grow up in an environment where if you got something, you treasured it. You didn't like throw it away, break it on purpose, and well, you can get a new one. I did have friends growing up which broke their model cars on purpose. They liked playing Crash, and then they crashed them, and they got new ones. And I mean, that was unthinkable to me. And I really was horrified when they well basically told me that, or even showed me that, and wanted me to play Crash cars with them and destroy basically their toy cars. I was like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And yeah, I grew up with a different mindset, and I learned to treasure the things that I had, and I learned that the things don't just fall from trees. You actually have to like save money to buy stuff, and saving up, and like saving my oh, what's the word? Is it allowance? Money that children get, like weekly or monthly. I think it is allowance. I learned to save that and to like buy a toy I really wanted, and sometimes the anticipation was even better than actually getting it in a way, because well, once you got it, you kind of reached your goal, and then you had it, and well, now you have it and you treasure it in a way. But I to this day remember the anticipation about some of the toys I bought myself a lot more than actually playing with the toys. Obviously, I played with them. I did have a lot of toy tractors growing up, and I played a lot with my toy tractors. But yeah, that is kind of the mindset I grew up with. So now that I'm grown up, I'm still kind of employing that mindset. I tend to, well, if something breaks, my first thought is, can I fix it? How to repair it? And for a lot of people, the first thought is, I want to buy a new one. I need to throw it out. And yeah, sometimes you need stuff to throw stuff out. I mean, stuff isn't made to fix anymore these days, and sometimes even if you want to, you just can't. You can't get the parts, or you can't get any diagrams to figure out how it works. So it's just too complicated. I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know how a lot of the stuff is actually working. I kind of can kind of start diagnosing a washing machine and see, well, does it get power? Does the motor turn? Is the belt still on? Basic stuff like that. But to really like get into it and map out all the diagrams and see, well, what does this switch trigger? What does that switch trigger? And why is there a pressure switch? And well, what needs to happen in order for the machine to start running, and all of those things. I mean, without a diagram, I can't do that. So at that point, I have to admit defeat and have to say, well, yeah, it's broken. I can't fix it. But sometimes it's easy. Sometimes fixes are really easy. Sometimes it's just a loose wire or something like that, or a broken capacitor. And I did fix stuff like that before. And again, to me, that is nothing special. To me, that is the way I grew up, and the way I learned to deal with things, and the way I learned to treat possessions. And well, obviously, when I got a car, I bought a broken car and I fixed it, and it was very cheap, and I enjoyed the car very much, and I fixed a lot more on that car. And I never thought about, well, where's the shop? Where can I bring my car to a shop? This is the thought that doesn't even occur to me. And obviously, when I first fixed things, I didn't know how. I didn't know, well, this and that, and that's how you fix that. I had no idea. But well, there's Google, and there is taking stuff apart and look how it works and put it back together. So that's usually how I go about things, and how I go about overhauling an engine on a tractor or stuff like that. At one point, it's the first time, and you just take your time and you're going to actually, well, maybe it's going to be catastrophic, but it's already broken. Um, or maybe it's going to be amazing and you fix something. Well, maybe you shouldn't start out with stuff like that, but really that is kind of the mindset I go about, and those things. And it's kind of surprising to me, or my mind is kind of blown sometimes if I talk about that, about well, XYZ is broken, I'm trying to fix it, and people are just bring it to there, or bring it to this person does good work, and kind of completely dismissing the idea that you could fix it yourself. Like it doesn't even cross their mind that you might be able to fix it yourself. And that is something that's actually really, again, it blows my mind sometimes, because for me it's just such a well, a normal thing, but I guess it is not. It is not, and obviously you can't fix everything yourself. You can't do everything yourself, because, well, you don't have all the time in the world, and you also need to like go earn money and stuff. So I get that. I do get that, and I also do get that if you have a really good paying job. And I just decided that I don't want to mow this pasture. I'm not sure. It took quite a while to mow the other two, and I thought about getting the windrower and trying that out first, because if I mow all three pastures and then the windrower doesn't work, I would have made a huge mistake. So before I make that huge mistake, just go back and take the windrower and not the windrower, the tether, and see if it even works. Yeah. Again, back to the topic. If you have a very high paying job and your hourly rate is so high, that is that, well, it would be really expensive for you to fix something. Let's say your hourly rate is $60, and you need to fix something for 3 hours, right? You had $180 at that point. If you spend 3 hours fixing a $5 item, obviously that is financially completely bonkers. Then again, if you use your free time isn't worth that much. It sounds stupid, but it isn't, unless you're self-employed and you don't have any free time and you could work instead. I mean, if you say, okay, I could go work for 3 hours, or I could not work for 3 hours and instead fix my $5 item. Obviously, that is stupid. But if you already done your work for the day, at some point, you need to like have free time, and you could use that to fix something. So I don't know if that calculation works all the time. That's a calculation that people have like countered me on when I talk about this, when I say like, well, my time, my hour is worth so and so, and this item is worth such and such, and it would be stupid to fix it. Well, what if you do sit on the TV for 3 hours? Do you think, well, I spent $180 now? Probably not. Probably you think, well, I enjoyed a bit of free time on the TV. So it's a topic you could obviously have a huge discussion about, and of course everybody does have a different opinion. And if you are asking why I'm driving back now, I just thought that I might not want to put the dirty, grassy mower back into my shed. Also, I need to like remove the equipment from the shed from one side to the other to get to the windrow. So I thought I'm going to put the mower down next to the high pressure washer right there, and just pressure wash it later. For now, I will get the windrower, and or let's just park the engine for a moment. Let's cool it down for a moment, although it seems fine. And yeah, maybe take a little pause for right now. Obviously the grass needs to dry now, so I'm not sure if I really need to windrow it right away, or if I can do it an hour or two in the future. But I might also be a little bit hungry, so I might get me some food, and we also can talk a little bit about a completely different plan for the future. I thought about going to cutting a few trees down. Um, Again, there are so many trees right here that are way too close together, and I thought I'd just take a chainsaw and start at some on some area. I mean, I was overthinking this for all the past months since I bought this property. I was overthinking the forestry. I was like making plans and thinking about doing this and doing that, and obviously that all involves having a harvester or something like that because, yeah, doing it really like on a large scale and stuff. And I don't have any of that right now, but that shouldn't stop me. I just could take a chainsaw. I do have plenty of chainsaws and just start cutting down a few trees. I only need to kind of find a way to drive in there to collect them because I don't have a winch or anything. I need to drive in there with my big loader. So I kind of need to make sure I only cut trees down in an area where I can actually get to with this thing. And then I just use the loader and the pallet forks and just like cut the trees down on the spot and try to like drive them out with the loader. I also could try to like get a small winch or a bit of cable and use this tractor to pull a few trees out. It is bit smaller and can go in tighter spaces. And just do some logging, get some trees down, get some trees sold, start making off some money, start making some money off this land. Because well, I need to pay some bills and also I want to buy a few things. And yeah, so that would be nice. Obviously, I do make money with my mobile service truck, so I'm not that much in a like tight spot to actually having to sell trees. But ultimately, my end goal would obviously be to make money off this land and make money off this land in such a capacity that I can scale down my hours working on other people's equipment. It's probably a bad calculation talking about money and stuff because I'm never going to make the same hourly rate working here on my farm than I make with the truck out and repairing stuff. But I'm just enjoying this a lot more. Not that I don't enjoy the other stuff, but I really enjoyed that today, and I kind of want to do more of that in the future. So if it makes some money, that is good enough. That is good enough for me. Anyways, I think we talked a lot. We had different topics. We had a lot of roleplay and story, but we also had a few like serious topics sprinkled in there, and I hope you enjoy that. That is kind of the video style I usually make. We also had a time lapse, so we have it all covered today. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that video. And please, again, I like to say the disclaimer that I don't usually tell people to like and subscribe and do all that stuff, but I really would appreciate if you would put a comment down in the comment section, answering the questions I asked in the beginning, or just telling me what you think about the video and my video style and what you want to see and what you don't want to see. Or just tell me that you liked the video if you did, and tell me that you didn't like the video if you didn't. And please tell me why. So I'm really looking forward to your comments. I thank you very much for watching, and yeah, I wish you a wonderful, happy day. Goodbye. See you next time.